Welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. I'm Kim McLaughlin and I'm your host. I am a licensed psychotherapist, blogger, podcaster, and best-selling author. Today we have something special. We're calling this episode Rebuilding from the Inside Out with Soul Coach Erica Carrico. My guest, Erica Carrico, is a soul business success coach whose powerful story of resilience, awakening, and alignment will leave you inspired. She went from a thriving corporate career to facing kidney cancer diagnosis at age 36 while raising a 3-year-old and a baby under 1, and at the same time navigating a marriage that was in crisis. In her words, she realized that the life she had built was killing her. What followed was a profound dark night of the soul that ultimately became the catalyst for her transformation. In this episode, we're going to explore ways to shift your mindset. She talks about how to take inspired and aligned action, and she gives us 3 powerful questions to become soul aligned in your business and in your career. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. So this is Erica Carrico, and I'm excited to have a conversation with her. And I was just telling her this off screen that I'm interested in getting to know her more. So let me read you her bio, and then she can tell us more about herself. Erica Carrico is an award-winning soul-based business success coach for women who are ready to transform their lives by creating 6- and 7-figure soul aligned businesses so that they can have impact they know they're destined to have while lucratively expressing their soul purpose. That was a mouthful. Also, the other thing I thought was interesting that I think we're in a lot of alignment is you have a BS degree in psychology and a master's in business management. So I thought those were kind of interesting. These are going to lead to lots of great conversations. Erica, welcome to the podcast. I'm really glad to have you. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. And what an honor to be your first guest that you don't know. So that's
Yes.
exciting. Yeah, well, I think I knew from a young age that I wanted to have a bit of a different life. I didn't ever feel like I wanted to follow the traditional path of like having a corporate career and getting married. And, I wanted to travel the world and there were so many things I loved. I believed in magic and, I just was kind of this free spirit. I loved horses. I loved being outside and camping and backpacking and all the things. And then, as a lot of us do, we grow up and the responsibilities start falling in place. And I'm going through my 20s and I'm doing things like I'm traveling a lot. I'm working a ski season up in Vail and I'm moving to Australia and I'm doing all these things. But as I approached my late 30s, everyone was like, well, don't you think you need to settle down now? And don't you think you need to get a real job? And shouldn't you, I was engaged. I was like, people were like, you're probably going to be getting married and starting a family soon. So, you need to be responsible. And I just kept hearing it from all sides. My family, his family, he's now my ex-husband, but my husband at the time. And so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I should just grow up and this is a pipe dream and whatever. So I settled into a corporate career and, fast forward however many years later, I was, like a lot of people, burnt out and I was depressed and I was anxious and I was miserable and I felt like I was slaving away in a corporate career that I didn't love and earning millions of dollars for a company that already had millions of dollars. And my marriage was falling apart. I was breastfeeding a baby at the time and I had a toddler and I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And I think that was really when everything changed. And I was 36 and I really realized like the life that I'm living and the way that I'm living my life based on societal conditioning, based on everyone else's opinions of what I should be doing is literally killing me. And that was the huge wake up call I really needed to not only change my life in a lot of different ways, but to finally have the courage and the belief in myself and the guts to go out and start my own business and leave my marriage. And I moved states. And I mean, my whole life just changed. And I think, I went from really living inside of a box. I felt like I was living somebody else's life and just very, very unhappy to 10 years later, everything that is in my life now is intentionally here. Like my
Yeah.
relationships are intentionally in my life. My house is designed intentionally. Everything in my house is because I love it here. How I spend my time is very intentional. And I think, yeah, it's been quite a journey, but here I sit.
That's incredible. It's interesting to me that oftentimes we kind of have to have that. I don't know if you called it the dark night of the soul, but I think that is clearly what was going on. And we kind of have to be pushed upside the head
Yeah,
to
I think,
go, this is done. I remember my daughter was 2 years old. I had been in nonprofit corporate world, and she was 2 years old, and I was crying every day.
right.
And I told my husband, I said, I can't do this. And I take a leap. You're the same girl. You take a leap. Like I just said, I can't do this anymore. I need to stop. And it's like, what do you mean?
Yep.
I
What do
need
you
to
mean?
end this. I need not, I need to end this job. And what was interesting to me is that it really made me evaluate, like, what do I value? What's important to me? What do I want to do? And I remember that crying every day
Yeah,
is just,
miserable.
money's not worth that. No
No,
life is worth that. And it's interesting now that I'm telling you this, is that it wasn't that where I was or the place I was working was bad. There was nothing. It was me,
right.
right? And I think you're talking about having that kind of moment where you're having to look inside and go, dang, this isn't working. And so how is it that it sounds like it was the accumulation of two young, what'd you say, two kids under two or three?
I had a 3-year-old and a under one.
Three and under one. That's going on. Marriage isn't doing so well. And going, uh-oh. And then a diagnosis of kidney cancer. Like that's a lot of things kind of bubbling up all at once. How is it you move through that? Because I think this is the point, where we go, we're on the other side of it. It kind of, we're both saying we're on the other side of it, but like there are people that are listening that are literally in that or feeling like there's something better out there and I can't get it. And I don't want to have this big moment of having cancer or having something
Yeah,
horrible happen.
right.
Like, what kind of led you up to go, oh, wow. And then how did you make that shift into something new? Hi, this is Kim. If something in today's episode brought up emotions or made you realize you'd like more support, you don't have to go through this alone. I work with people who are ready to feel more grounded, confident, and at peace in their lives. You can schedule a free 15-minute consultation and learn more about therapy and me at feedyoursoultherapy.com.
Yeah, well, I think, our bodies and our souls speak to us before the louder knocks start to happen. And I was not happy. I was, like I said, very anxious and probably depressed as well. Like, I would say even clinically depressed. And I think that was my body and my soul telling me, hey, some changes need to be made. But I was too afraid, and I I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't happy, but I didn't know what would make me happy. So I think for me, the cancer, I really look at it as a blessing. I mean, it was a blessing for me. And I had this moment where it was kidney cancer, so it was really strange because like all my doctors were like, I've never seen this in a woman your age before, because it's usually in like 90-year-old men. So all of my doctor's appointments, there was 90-year-old men in the office, and here's me, this 36-year-old woman,
Yeah.
and they kept telling me it was a fluke, and that honestly made me more afraid because I was like,
Yeah.
well, if my body created this, it's going to create it again. There was a reason why this happened to me. It was not a fluke. And I had this vision. I was nursing my daughter. It was actually the night before I had surgery because I was going to have this tumor removed and they were going to take part of my kidney. And it was the night before the surgery, and I was nursing her to sleep, and I looked down at her, and she kind of just looked up at me and had these big eyes, and she just smiled at me, and I just burst into tears, and I started crying, and I was like, why is this happening to me? And why is this happening to me now? And I have a baby and I have a toddler, and it's like, I need to be here, and I haven't lived the life that I want to live. Like, this was not supposed to be it. And I heard a voice, and it was so clear. It said to me, it said remission. And I even remember saying out loud, I am not in remission. I wish I were, but this cancer is still inside of me. And it was remember your mission. Remember why you're here. And that was like, I just stopped and I was like, oh my gosh, I have not been living my purpose. I have not been living in alignment with my soul. I came here as a soul or a spiritual being for a reason, and I did not come here to slave away in somebody else's 9 to 5 and in somebody building somebody else's dream. And I really felt like it was a divine calling, and I had to wake up. And so I kind of made this promise to God or source or the divine or whoever you want to call it, that no matter how much time I had left, whether it was 6 months, whether it was 60 years, I would spend the rest of my life being of service and doing the work that I'm here to do. And here I am.
I think that's really important that we should take the opportunity when something hits us and it's big and go, whoa, what is this about? What's going on for me? And that's, my story of crying every day is like, something's going on, something is not right.
Yeah.
And so going, what is this saying? And so it sounds to me like you were asking a lot of questions of source, our higher purpose, our higher being, and going, I'm not ready to be done. If I am ready to be done, dang, but like I feel like I have more.
Yeah.
And that you were really leaning into that.
Very much so. I was very much leaning into that.
I think it's interesting that you also said that, like, and everybody has different beliefs, and I honor that, is that, if I didn't lean into what is my calling or what is calling to me, if I didn't lean into that, I would probably recreate something in my body that isn't going to be valuable. Some people will say like they have cancer comes back again. I'm not saying that like that is actually what happens, but like that, we can have a lot of dark night of the soul, and like, do we listen to it? And do we really take it to heart and go, what does this mean for me? And what might I need to change or do we have differently?
Right. I know. It was really interesting. There was no cancer in my family. No one except for my uncle. So my mom's younger brother, who was 12 years older than me, 12 years younger than my mom. He was diagnosed with kidney cancer a few years before me. And apparently it's not hereditary. It's not passed through family genes, but it was really interesting because I watched him not change anything. I watched him go into victim mentality, and I don't know, I wasn't living with him. I don't know his whole story, but I watched him tell people that he was going to live a short life, and I watched him not change much about how he was living, and I watched him go through chemo and his body get sicker and sicker and sicker, um and I watched myself change everything about my life, right? Like I had changed not only my how I treated myself physically, but how I treated myself emotionally and mentally. And I really learned to love myself down to the cellular level. And I knew that if I didn't change, my body would recreate it because I didn't change anything within, right? So my body, why would it not recreate it? And I watched myself go into remission and nothing has ever come back. And I watched his spread through his lungs, through his adrenal glands, through his blood. And it's like, there could be coincidental, who knows? But I do feel like our bodies speak to us, and if it is creating dis-ease, I read a lot of Louise Hay's books. Her one book, the You Have the Power or You Can Heal Your Life, and that was something that I really studied at the time. And I just don't. I feel like that was a big part of my healing journey.
Yeah, I never know. We never know when our time on earth is done.
No.
And we don't know. And it's a toss up. And in the process of being here on earth, are we living our best lives? Are we doing all the things that we're called to do with some kind of possibly deadly diagnosis, and sometimes even without that? And so are we living it? And what I hear is that you really leaned into your life.
Hmm.
And you started, so can you tell us, like, what did you start to do, that emotional side and that mental side, that really helped transform? Because that's what I hear you do. I love Louise Hay. She's way old school. I'm super
Yeah.
excited you got turned on to her because
Yeah.
you know was is a powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she didn't even start her business until she was 61. I
I
mean, I just think that's fascinating.
I
But
love it.
I know,
Yes.
same. I think one of the biggest things was I just had a lot of unhealed trauma, and I was so self-critical. I was a perfectionist. I truly, my self-worth, and I felt like I could only be loved if I was achieving and accomplishing things and this perfect child and this perfect person. And I had a lot of body shame. I definitely suffered with eating disorders throughout my college years and my 20s. And I just didn't talk to myself very nicely on the inside either. And I think through that cancer experience, what it taught me was, yes, to love myself down to a cellular level, but like, what does that mean and what does that look like? Anytime I had some kind of a negative thought or a shameful thought about my body or about myself, I would flip it. I would flip it around. I'd say that this is not true. And how can I actually replace that thought with the polar opposite? And it took a couple of years, but now I don't complain anymore in life. Like I'll have a conscious whinge if I'm having a bad day, but I'm very aware that I'm complaining and I get it out and I get it over with. But I don't ever talk negatively about myself or my body. I've just really flipped the narrative. Like my brain used to be so negatively wired, and now it's just been constant awareness of when I'm going into a negative loop. How can I change that? And it was a lot of listening to I am affirmations. It's a lot of listening to, different podcasts and studying how the brain works and really working to reprogram my subconscious mind. And it's been a journey, but that work was so valuable and so important. And I don't have to work so hard to do that anymore. My brain naturally thinks much more positively. And I think there's so much room now because I spent so much energy so down on myself and critical and harsh. And now that doesn't take up any living space in my head. So I'm just like free to create the life that I want to live and do the work that I'm here to do and work with my clients and be a mom. And yeah, it really changed my life.
I got to say that is interesting. And for Louise Hay, that was her story. If I remember correctly, I think she had
She
cancer
did. I think it
and
was
she talked
uterus or cervical. It was something like that.
something like that. And she was a strong proponent. She since passed probably she made her transition 15 years ago. It's been a while. And but she still lives on in her books and her memory. And what I think is interesting is that that's exactly what she talked about was like, how do you talk to yourself? And is it reflecting the higher order who you are, or is it reflecting that lower victim side,
Right.
right? Because we can all go there and we're all human. We all have our moments of feeling the victim. And it's like, wait a second, am I really? And it's interesting because the thing that I start saying that I've worked on a lot and I talk with my clients about is like what I say is, what do we know to be true?
Right.
I'm a piece of crap. Like, really? Is that true? Like, is that, well, no, not really. It's like, so what do we know to be true? Like, if we would know something to be true of you, you were kind to your animals this morning. You
Right.
helped out your partner to get ready or your child. Like, what do we know to be true? And, true with the capital T, right?
Right.
Not the little truth. And
Right.
it becomes that challenge of, really, is that true? And, we live in this world that's full of shame, and it doesn't help us achieve the great things that we really are have the ability to do. And great things are all relative.
Right. Yeah,
All
100%.
relative. So you moved into that. How did you move into then your soul alignment work? Like I find that interesting that like you moved into, from corporate into what do you call it? A soul business success coach, which I think is fascinating because everything I do is branded with feed your soul.
Oh, I love
Feed your
that. Yeah.
soul. Feed your soul with Kim podcast. Feed your
Right.
soul therapy. Feed your soul. Everything is feed your soul. And so when I saw this for you, I thought, dang, this is an alignment moment. So for you, what does that mean for you as a soul business success coach? What is that? And what does it mean for you?
Yeah, well, I guess it started, well, really it means that I help people that want to build businesses, not for the sake of building a business or for the sake of money, but for the sake of like having impact and truly being able to be paid for and earn a living doing what they really love, what they were put on earth to do. So it's like, how can I really profit from my purpose, I suppose? And it's been a 10-year journey for me really to get there, but I think I started out as a career coach because my corporate career was in recruitment. So I had done, so much career coaching over the years. And so it was a natural transition into my own business to start with career coaching. But what I found over all those years of working with people and myself included is that true fulfillment, I really only saw people happy and feel truly fulfilled if their career was tied to something deeper. Like they felt it was attached to their purpose in some way, shape, or form. And so what happened was my work naturally shifted from helping people switch careers to figuring out a career or a business that they wanted to start that is aligned with their purpose. And that was a lot of my own spiritual journey and a lot of me making that transition myself and then just feeling like seeing how it changed my life in all the ways. So I started as a life purpose coach and then really started helping people to leave corporate, start their own business. And then I had so much success in my business early on, and people would come to me and they would say, "Can you help me grow mine?" And it kind of just naturally, shifted that direction. And so now I have a couple of different ways that I work with clients in a couple of different programs. But my book is really around helping them figure out what business they want to start or what career they want to move into. And then the rest of it is around building your soul aligned business. And I think that, what I've coached at this point also thousands of entrepreneurs, and the ones who don't make it are the ones who are just starting a business for other reasons. Like so like if you feel like your business is a part of your purpose, which I very much do. This is my work that I was put on earth to do. So when I fail, I don't quit. I get back up and I figure it out. Or I course correct. When a challenge hits and things get really hard, I don't give up because I know that this is what I'm here to do. And it's the same with other people. But when they hit challenges and they hit bumps and they're just starting a business for no other reason aside from, creating a business or wanting to earn money from it, the bumps hit, the challenges hit, the failures happen, and they're out. They quit. They don't have the perseverance to get through because they don't have that deeper alignment or that deeper connection of like, this is why I'm here.
Do you find that like when you're a business success coach, like I think that it's like your soul alignment could be in working for someone else. Like there
Totally.
can
Oh, for
be,
sure.
right? I mean,
Oh,
you don't
absolutely.
always have to start a business because I think it's interesting. What I find is that when people talk about a soul aligned business or soul aligned work, it means they have to, what I hear people say is it means they have to be a minister. They means they have
Oh,
to
yeah, no.
be a helper person, or it means they have to be in that metaphysical realm. And it's like,
No.
tell me what you think about that and kind of what you say
Sure.
to them
How
about
I
that.
define it, yeah, absolutely. So the way that I define it in my book is sort of what I really learned after just so many years of working with people. Like the perfect combination of a career or of a business or anything that is soul aligned is a combination of a couple of things. So one, what you're naturally good at. What are your gifts? What are you naturally good at? What are your divine skills? What are your natural skill sets, right? Two, what do you absolutely love? What do you love to do? What lights you up? What lights the fire, in your body? And then three is how can you combine those two? So how can you combine what you're naturally good at with what you love to do to create value and give back to the world? And that is really to me the ultimate like the definition of a soul aligned career or business. So but anyone who's in their career, as long as they feel like it's a combination of what they're naturally good at, what they really love to do, and they're combining those two things to create value in some way, shape, or form, they're usually fulfilled.
I find that fascinating because in my world as a therapist, I have people come to me and talk about not feeling aligned and feeling burnt out,
Right.
and that they're doing this high purpose job. And sometimes it becomes that they're staying in it because they can't afford not
Right.
to, right?
Yeah.
To go because they're, mortgages and car payments, and there's a life that we need to pay for. So like it becomes hard to live that soul aligned in your work. What do you do with that? Or what do you say to people when they come to you talking about that?
Well, whenever someone wants to make a career change or start their business and leave corporate altogether, I mean, I've worked with countless of people to do this. It has to be a safe transition. I don't ever tell people, well, quit your job and start your business. And I've had a lot of clients that have done that. And oftentimes it doesn't work. They really struggle because they're trying to build a business from a place of fear and scarcity and lack and like, oh my gosh, I need to sign this client or I need to get this to work or I need, and that's a really wrong energy to be building a business from. So people actually do better if they start it as a side hustle, right? Or they do it on the side. Like I worked for a whole year full time while I was starting my business on the side before I was earning enough in my business to be able to leave my career. So there's safe transitions and there's ways to do it. And everybody does it a little bit differently, but I find that those who can put some money in savings and then get their business to where it's earning at least half of their corporate salary or whatever, then usually that's a safe place where people can jump because then their business is already proven it's working and they know if they have more time, they can just scale it from there.
It's interesting because also the thing that I think of with people is like, how can you be soul aligned right now with what's going on?
Yeah,
Right? Because
right.
a year from now, sure, you could leave. I did it, but I had, I could start my business easily in being a therapist. I could just kind of move into it. It was easier.
Yeah.
And what I think of is like you're where you are right now. How can you align your soul using the terms, you've been using like with what's going on right now to feel better in order to either stay where you're at or to move into something different, but like it really has, let's bring it up right now and work with people, that we can, yes, it's a yes and.
Huh, it is a yes and.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I guess we're human, right? We can make choices as to we have a brain, we can think, we can make choices as to what thoughts we're letting in, what we're paying attention to, how we're feeding our energy, what thought can we, I can easily get sucked into, oh, well, the economy is doing this and all of our investments are doing that and World War III this and recession that. And I mean, in my personal life, the reality is so many people are losing their jobs, So I can get locked into that fear and my brain can absorb all of that. Or I can choose to almost reject that and say, okay, this is happening to everybody else, but it's not happening to me. Or if it is happening to me, why is this happening to me? Probably because it's a natural course correction, right? For me, it was like cancer happened to me for natural course correction. So I just really feel like we can choose to look at our situations, from a lot of different perspectives. And I think we can choose to look at the world and how it's going to affect us and either take on that fear and that scarcity, or we can choose to reject it and continue down our own path.
I love it. I find those are words of wisdom that really, I think you're so hitting it on the head, so to speak, that like right now there's a lot we can move into fear because there's a lot.
There's a
And,
lot.
and what does this mean for me? Is there a natural course correction for me right now? And it could be emotionally, mentally, spiritually, not even in business, right?
Totally.
So
Yeah.
what's my course correction and what do I need to do? I love that. I find that so useful. What I want to know also is tell us about your book. We talked about this earlier, Awaken Your Purpose. It came out recently. Tell us about it and what is that?
Yeah, well, the book is really the process that I took so many of my clients through. It was a one-on-one coaching program at the time for people who wanted to figure out, what their purpose is. I think we spend so much time, myself included. I mean, I spent 10 years and backpacked through 50 different countries trying to find my purpose, right? And it's like, it's not out there, people. I can tell you because it's not. And it's, as soon as we turn inwards, I created this process that is like a self journey, right? And the book is about that. So it's like soul meets strategy. It's really the first half of the book is just not even figuring out who you are, but remembering who you are before society and fear and obligation and responsibility took over. And it's peeling some of those layers away and just really coming back to the essence of who you are as a soul and what your gifts are and what your medicine is that you're here to share with the world. And then the second half is kind of a career coaching process that I use with a lot of, hundreds of people in my corporate career, taking them through and really getting clear on, okay, are you going to move careers or are you going to start a business? And if so, starting to research options, figuring out, what each of that would look like. And then I have them kind of rank it using this cool sheet that I have created. And they come out knowing what they're going to do. And it just works every time. It's like clarity, direction, and a plan. So they come out and they know where they're going to start today.
Clarity, direction, and a plan. That's like, it gets you going in the right direction. I love that. We're going to link that in the show notes to make sure that people know how to get that. Also, I know you and I talked earlier is that you have a bunch of freebies on your website. So we'll put your website, ericacarrico.com. We'll put it on the link in the show notes. Wow, this has been a powerful time. Erica, the thing I ask everybody at the end of our podcast is, what do you do to feed your soul? How do you feed your soul?
Yeah, mine is just being connected. I live in Colorado and I grew up in the mountains. So mine is being outside, whether it's, taking a walk at sunset or watching the sunrise or hiking through the mountains or riding my horse, or it's always, I'm always best and fueling myself and nourishing myself when I'm just out in nature alone. Always where it comes from.
Out in nature alone, Colorado. I think we could even do that if you live in the city. There's
Anywhere.
always
Yeah.
there's a park close by. There's an open space close by. Just turn and look at it, people. There's a
Yep.
way to get out there no matter where you live, no matter what's going on. I love that. Erica, I am so happy that you are my first guest
Aw.
that I've just been introduced to. I love having you on here. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I think you gave so much wisdom and really speak from the heart. And I really appreciate that about you. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
Well, thank you all for being on the podcast, and we will check in with you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. We love bringing you fresh content to help you feed your soul. We would appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave a comment about our podcast so others can find us. This podcast is not a replacement for mental health counseling. If you are suffering, seek out a qualified mental health provider. You are worth it.